And I'm going to talk a little bit now about conflict and reframing conflict. We've learned ideas about conflict that aren't always the most helpful. I come from a place that understands or sees that there are no bad people. There's just traumatized people. And we all carry trauma from things that have hurt us in the past. And when things have hurt us, we've shut off parts of ourselves. And sometimes that creates blind spots. And it means that we're unable to see parts of ourselves that we're doing and some of the effects that we're having on those around us. And this often happens because we have encountered pain, and also it's because we've been taught patterns of separation, patterns of domination, patterns of violence, and of patriarchy. And I don't see patriarchy as something that's just about men dominating, but patriarchy is about these learnt patterns of separation. In life, we are all trying to meet our needs. And there's only so many needs. Needs for food, needs for water and air, needs for community and connection. But we also have a million strategies for meeting those needs. One of the strategies, so I have a need to be heard. I think probably all of us do. One strategy for being heard is to go up to someone and say, "Hi, could I talk to you for a little bit?" And that person might say yes and allow me to talk to them. Another way for me to be heard might be to go on the street and just start yelling, "Hey everybody, I'm talking now!" And that is it's a strategy for being heard. And it might really upset some people, but some people might love it. We've all got our different strategies about how to create a movement that's strong enough to transform humanity at this pivotal stage. And we are probably all here because we want to be part of that healing, part of that transformation, part of that complete change of the way that humans relate to each other and relate to the world that is us. And yet we're going to have different strategies about how to do that. And that's going to mean at times that we're going to pull in different directions because we've learned different things help. But when it happens, it's going to mean that we get into conflict. Or it could mean we get into conflict. And I see conflict as inevitable. It's not something to be avoided. It's something that will happen. Conflict can't exist where there is awareness on all sides of what's going on. Conflict exists when I don't understand why you're doing this thing that way. But once I understand why you were doing the thing and you understand why I was acting my way, there cannot be conflict anymore. And so conflict is an opportunity for us to come into a greater awareness about some other wisdom, about some other part of humanity that thinks and believes some other thing. Conflict is this opportunity for new insight, new wisdom. And in that way, conflict is generative. It can be really creative. It was mentioned earlier about all the different voices and hearing all the different voices as a part of a community, and that all voices can be valued. And I think conflict is largely about there being some voice that is feeling marginalized and maybe is being marginalized, and it wanting to be heard and to be recognized and to be integrated and brought into the whole in a way that it can then say, I'm accepted, I've been heard, I'm part of this thing now. And so conflict is about deep democracy. It's about hearing all those voices because every voice has wisdom in it. But conflict also, I recognize, can be a really painful thing. And I've been in situations where conflict has been grinding away on my emotions, on my soul for months upon months because it's not being dealt with. And I think it's really important to acknowledge how painful it can be. Conflict is one of the major reasons that people burn out, and it's one of the major reasons why social movements collapse, because we've not dealt with integrating all of the different voices, and then the conflicts just blow up in a way. And the pain there is immense, the trauma from different movements in the past that have failed, and people who just will say, oh, activism, that doesn't work, are probably coming because they've experienced something in the past that has said, like, this is painful, and I got into conflict with that, and now I don't want to take part in it because of the pain. I don't want to be experiencing that pain again. And yet, when we navigate conflict and we find a way to bring awareness and bring sort of an integration, then healing really is possible. Without awareness, the conflict is likely to cycle. People will fall apart and then not talk to each other for a while and then carry on doing their thing, and when they come back together, the same conflict will manifest again, and boom, it's cycled. It's the same thing happening again. And so when there is a conflict, probably the most important thing that we can be doing as rebels is engaging with the conflict in a way that is saying there is a reason for this, and this is a creative thing, and it's only once we move into this and through this that we will move beyond it, because otherwise it's going to continue and going to cycle. Once we move through it, we'll be stronger. That's the magic of this, is once we move through and we've integrated the voices, now we understand all of these other experiences and wisdoms, so that as a movement, and as individuals, we will be stronger. We'll be able to see more positions, more places that people are coming from. And I don't understand conflict as something that happens between two people, but more that conflict is a field. There is a field of conflict in which we all start to swim. And it might be that it really comes into a strong sort of acute moment between two people or between just a few people. And yet everyone who's aware of the conflict and is talking about it and trying to process it is part of the field of conflict that's happening. And so when we're aware of a conflict, we're all involved in it. By processing a little bit over here, we don't know what the effects will be. We played that game earlier where one person moving can affect the whole thing. If we process a little bit of the conflict over here, then maybe the next day we will say something in a conversation that sparks something for someone else that completely transforms it, that then has ripple effects and changes everything. So conflict is this field that we're all interacting amongst. And by sensing tensions earlier, and dealing with tension earlier, and I'm bringing that word in now, tension versus conflict. I think tension is something we often sense tension in our body. Tension's happening frequently, and the earlier we sense it and deal with it, the less likely it is to explode into a conflict or to move into a larger conflict phase. And so getting really good at sensing our tensions. We talk about using short feedback loops, and that's about when you sense something, try to deal with it as quickly as you can. There's something beautiful that I love about this, is that the more sensitive we get to tensions and to working on them early, the more rapidly we can come into a greater awareness. of ourselves and the people around us. And so, and therefore, having this creative effect of the different voices making us really stronger. Yeah. Just lost my thread there. That's interesting. Wonder why. Someone tell me the last thing I said.
Different voices making us stronger.
Different voices making us stronger. Thank you. Yes. I'm going to say also that often there can be this idea that let's build a conflict resolution process, and if only we had the perfect process, we'll be able to apply it in all situations. And in my experience, it doesn't work. Conflict is something that is unique when it happens, and as such, conflict is something to navigate. And you can prepare for conflict. You can have plans and processes that you've got ideas of things to do. Hey, we could do a sharing circle. Hey, we could do some eye gazing. Hey, why don't we bring in a mediator? There's loads of ideas. Have a menu of options. But you're never going to be able to impose, this is the conflict resolution process, and if you follow it, this will be all fixed. Because often what happens in conflict is it's about agency. It's about somebody not feeling like they've got their power. And if you then try to impose a particular structure onto what's meant to, what you think is meant to happen, that's only going to create this and perpetuate the same dynamics of somebody feeling that they don't have agency and they don't have power. So it's got to be navigated. It's got to be something where there is sensitivity. And bring in facilitators, yes. Bring in people who are trained in this stuff. But this really is, I think, the thing which will make our movement succeed or fail. It will make our rebellion globally transform things, or in a couple of years or even shorter we'll collapse and be bitter and really struggling and really in pain. So yeah, when conflict is present, don't ignore it, don't push it off, don't deny that you're in it. You can deny that you're in it for a little bit, but then recognize, actually, if somebody's telling me that I'm in conflict, I'm probably in conflict. And then see it as, this is the most important thing. This is the rebellion, is me working on the conflict with those others around me. And let's see it as this opportunity for awareness to come.